Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is another Power Rangers discussion video, and this time we're talking about toys. And I want to talk about this Tokunation article. It's talking about how Bandai of America was openly talking about decreasing the number of female figures available. They were saying this to some people at New York Comic Con, and it was because they're not selling as well as everything else. And then there was a press release and a pre-order showing future figures that you could get, and they did not include the female Rangers. And this did cause some concern among fans. The article also talked about how female figures in the Legacy line were clogging the shelves. And Bandai did respond. They denied that they were stopping production on female figures. They said they were evaluating the situation, but were committed to female Rangers. I will say in the lines that I follow, Masters of the Universe, Star Wars, Amiibo, Marvel, I have no problem finding female figures that have been made of pretty much any character I can think of. And I'm very familiar with the argument that they don't sell as well as their male counterparts, and that's true, but they always get made in every line I follow. They may not be released as quickly as their male counterparts. They may not be released in the same abundance as their male counterparts, but they get out. So I'm going to take Bandai at their word that they will continue producing the female figures. If they stop production, they would be very, very unusual because everyone else is putting them out. As far as the regular line goes, there doesn't really appear to be a problem in my area. They are more likely to be among the stragglers left over, but they are not there in overwhelming abundance or anything that's clogging the shelves. They're just more likely to be among the leftovers. So with the regular Power Ranger figures, this just appears to be a case of balancing supply and demand. You don't want too many on there, so there's a bunch of stragglers, but you do want enough on there that children and collectors who want those figures can get them. Trust me, incidentally, I can tell you, little girls do want their Pink Ranger figure. With the Legacy line, I do absolutely agree. In my area, they are clogging the shelves. They are the vast majority of the stragglers left of the Legacy line, and they are filling entire pegs in some cases. But to say that this is only because of the gender of the figure would be to completely ignore the issues of the Legacy line. So the Legacy line began with 5-inch figures of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Then they restarted the line with figures that were over 6 inches tall. And right out of the gate, we get more Mighty Morphin Power Ranger figures, along with figures from other seasons that may not be as well known or as popular. The figures have a higher price point of at least $20 a figure, so that's at least $100 a team. And they also don't include power weapons. They just have the standard weapon that every Ranger of that season has. They don't have the power weapons like the power axe, the power bow, things like that. The one weapon that as a collector you would want to pose that figure with, it does not come with. And there's been some quality control issues with some of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers accidentally getting their belts painted the wrong color, and Pink Ranger was among those. So I think it's very understandable that collectors might not want to buy an entire team. They might just want to get a few figures to represent the team or a few of their favorite Rangers. I think including the power weapons with all the figures would help. At that price point, you really do expect to get all the accessories that should come with that figure. And I personally think it might be beneficial to go back to the 5-inch scale, because it would allow for a lower price point. When they were doing it on that scale, they were including all the weapons, accessories. They were even having alternate heads for some figures. I think that that would probably help the line sell a little better if it didn't cost so much to get all the figures in a team. And while I'm at it, I want to point out that female figures are far from the only things I see left over on the shelves. A lot of them have nothing to do with gender. I present to you the strange bug-eyed thing that is Movie Alpha 5. Now, it's debatable how well he was received. It's probably safe to say a lot of fans didn't dig this design. But even if he had been super hot, even if people had loved this version of Alpha 5, Why in the name of God did we need this many versions of him on the toy shelf? If they came out with a Batman movie, would they come out with 4 figures of Alfred? No, it doesn't make any sense. What were they thinking? So let's move on to talk about how well Power Ranger toys are doing in general. This summer in May, a firm that is widely used and respected named Power Rangers the #1 selling action figure brand, so obviously it's probably doing pretty well. However, in September, I saw this in a Tokunation article where it said that the movie line was warming shelves in stores and the Power Rangers Ninja Steel toy line was already hitting clearance prices across the country. So Tokunation is a major fan site and they post about toys all the time, so I'm going to take it seriously and I'm going to definitely check it out. And just to give you some context, this is what I was looking at the beginning of the year. This is a giant display at the front of Toys R Us, and I didn't get the bottom of it, but you can just imagine how much product is in here. And as a collector, you can probably tell there's no way that that's going to be sold in the 2 or 3 months that this display is up. It's just way too much product, and that is just the movie toys. That's not counting the toys in the regular section that are from Ninja Steel. By September, that big long display was long gone, and this is what I was looking at store shelves in every store in my area. I was looking at a lot of space on these pegs. It looked like a lot of product had been sold through and was not being restocked. We're talking a lot of empty space that was staying there for a very, very long time. And then a few weeks ago, I walk into stores and I start seeing this. This is the Power Rangers section in Toys R Us. And so this is following a supernormal pattern in my area. So what happens is that we get stock at the beginning of the year and they try to fill the shelves with new toys, and then those toys are going to sell through. We might get a few extra waves, but they're eventually going to sell through, and there's just going to be empty spaces on the shelves with some stragglers for a long, long time until a few weeks before Black Friday, and then they'll be filled again for the holiday season, and then that stock is probably going to get sold through during the holidays, and we'll have some stragglers for a few months in the beginning of the year, and then everything's just pretty much going to be sold out as the new toys come in. I don't see a whole lot deviating from that pattern. The only difference here is that on top of the Ninja Steel and Legacy lines that we would normally have, we have an entire line of movie figures. And that means there's a lot more stock than normal. So there may be more stragglers at the end of the year, we'll see. And I've never actually thought about the logistics of this pattern, but I think it makes that giant display that was overstuffed with stock that couldn't possibly sell in the 3 months it was up make more sense. They need toys to be there when people are hyped about the movie so they don't run short on those. But they also need toys left over for Christmas because the kids are going to want them. Trust me, I've already seen it. So this allows them to do both. And it might make sense for them not to put them out earlier in the year, to hold them back to make sure that they do have that stock available for the holidays when all the kids are clamoring for it. As far as Ninja Steel toys being on clearance, the only Ninja Steel toys I saw on clearance were the Power Stars, the 3 packs of Power Stars. And as you can see, the keys and the chargers before them were put on clearance. That's not unusual. They often clog the shelves, they fill up the entire section, and so at the beginning of a year, oftentimes they'll be put on clearance to make way for the new toys. But what was unusual about putting the Ninja Stars on clearance was it was in the middle of a year. But it's been an unusual year, as I've pointed out. We have an entire movie line that they have to find space for somewhere on the shelf. So obviously they don't have room for an excessive amount of Ninja Stars. So it's pretty understandable that they'd want to clear the shelf and make room for the movie toys so they can put them back on there for the holiday. So did the line go from the top selling action figure brand to not selling at all in just a matter of a few months? Maybe, but I don't really see any evidence of that. So even with the massive amount of overstock, I think we're going to do fine this year. And I would definitely, if I'm a collector and I wanted something that was released this year, I would start looking at how I'm going to get it if I'm going to get it off the store shelves. Because this stuff is going to sell through. Kids are already clamoring for it. I've seen it. Toys R Us is the best place to go for the movie figures and movie toys. And if you're looking for the movie Megazord, they are definitely the best place. You can get a cheaper one that is a single figure that doesn't come apart, and then you can get this one in a giant box that'll have all 5 Megazords in it. You're probably not going to find the individual Zords on the shelf at this point, or at least not right now. I don't see them all on any store shelf anywhere. But you can get them all if you buy this. Just be forewarned, I did look at the reviews for it, and it does look like it is probably pretty easy to come apart if you try to form the Megazord and put them all together. So if you're buying it for a child, it may be better to get the cheaper version that's basically one big figure that doesn't come apart. And while I'm at it, I just want to mention a few toys that I've heard some complaints or concerns about. Basically, all these fall under the category of trying to make you buy something you don't want to get something you do. And so that's the case with these Ninja Steel Power Star packs. They come with 3 stars, and typically one of them is used on the show, and the other 2 are legacy stars featuring past Rangers. And these stars are not on the show. These are original to the toy line as far as I can tell, and that's bugging some people who just want to collect the stars from the show. And that's very understandable. Me personally, I want the legacy stars. That's why I'm buying those. But I understand people who don't want to be forced to buy those legacy stars. And that's also the case with the auxiliary Zords. Those thus far have only been included with repaints of the main Megazord. And so, again, a lot of people don't want to get something that's not on the show. And so forcing them to get a repainted Megazord for an auxiliary Zord is just kind of rubbing some people the wrong way. I mean, I like repaints. I mean, I think this green one looks great. But I don't think people should be forced to buy it to get an auxiliary Zord. I mean, if there was a larger Zord fleet, would we have to get like 6 Megazords to get all the auxiliary Zords? And lastly, there are normally bundles with Megazords, but normally they're bundled with other Zords or other Megazords. This year, the only one I've seen is being bundled with this cannon. The cannon is not on the show, and thus a lot of people are not going to want it, or they would prefer to have a Zord or another Megazord in the pack. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad toy. It shoots a little missile, it turns into a cool looking ninja star, it plugs into the chest of the Megazord to form a freaking awesome finishing move, but it's still not a good choice for a pack with a Megazord. But those are minor concerns. Overall, I think the Ninja Steel toy line looks pretty cool, and I plan to pick up a couple things myself. And I wish everyone the best of luck toy hunting this holiday season. And I think Power Rangers is going to do fine as a toy line this year. I will say in the past it has moved stock and replenished stock better than any other line that I follow. Unlike other toy lines I follow, when I go to a Power Ranger section, I see the toys that should be out right now. When I go to other sections, I may not be seeing the toy that I'm looking for that should be out. Instead, I'll be looking at toys from a year ago, 2 years ago. So Power Rangers has been very refreshing as a collector, and I hope that continues and it doesn't kind of get into malaise that other toy lines have kind of gotten bogged down with. And that's it. Like and subscribe if you like this video. I'm also one of the moderators on the Google Plus Power Rangers board, so join us on there. We'd love to have you. And next time, we're going to be looking at the age-old question, what would happen if Power Rangers returned to Disney?